In this tutorial, we're going to show you how to navigate the actions. And we're going to specifically show you two types of actions that you're going to find in Quigler. Obviously, we don't have time to go through all of them, but all of the actions fall under one of these two categories. So by now you know how to log in. Just click on the Transaction tab in the upper left, get to your transaction page, and then click on a new test drive. Now in this case, I am going to choose a buyer of a condo in New York State, in New York City, and then in the borough of Manhattan. And that means we're going to get the content for the Real Estate Board of New York, but from the point of view of understanding how the actions work, the content isn't that relevant. But remember, it will be different for different states, different types of properties, and in certain places like New York City, depending upon the property, where the property is located, you will either get the actions based upon the Code of Ethics of the National Association of Realtors or of the Real Estate Board of New York. Okay, so there it is. We opened one up. It's sitting in our transaction dashboard. We've got a test drive for a buyer of a condo in Manhattan. Now this screen is now familiar to you because this is all of the steps across the top. And in this case, notice that there are only 8. The buyer transactions have fewer requirements. Largely that's due to the fact that the seller has lots of disclosure requirements, and that adds multiple steps to the transaction. Now in order to demonstrate the first one of these, we're going to go to step 2, agency disclosure. And we're going to go down and just click on dual agency. Now this particular action is what we call a simple action. It's just a yes or a no question. Did you do this? Did you say this? Did you explain that? That's it. 65 to 75% or so of all the actions in Quigler are just simple yes or no. Did you do something? Did you ask something? And in this case, it's also, you'll see, did you explain? And in this case, it's did you explain that if a buyer, client, wants to make an offer on one of your listings or your company's listings, that is by definition dual agency. It's simply informing them of something. Now there are 25 states that have dual agency. There's about 25 who don't have dual agency. So again, this will vary by state. But this is a very, very important one. It may be a simple one, but it's super, super important. This is where you can go off the rails pretty easily. This is where lawsuits develop. And right now, many of you may know, in New York State, there's a massive class action lawsuit, could be $50, $100 million against a prominent firm over not properly disclosing dual agency. So this is a disclosure one for you, and it's a key one. Now, if you hit no, that you did not explain, guess what happens? And this is key to Quigler. Up pops the stop sign. Now remember, Quigler is not a test. It's not testing you on anything. It is doing the opposite. It's guiding you through all of a transaction. It's making sure you stay on the right road. Make sure you don't get pushed off to the side doing the wrong thing. So in this case, if you answered no, you did not explain, when in fact the law says you must, Quigler stops you and it says, no, don't answer that way. Answer yes. You notice that at the bottom. So all you do is do what you're supposed to do, talk to your buyer in this case, or your client, and talk to them about dual agency. You can even read it right from here if you want, if you're confused by it. We're here to simplify this for you. Okay, so then you hit yes and you're done. So that's a simple, straightforward yes or no action, which most of them are in Quigler, and it now gets added to your completed actions under step 2, agency. And you see it up there. It says you've completed it. And on the left, it tells you the remaining ones in agency. For the second example, I'm going to go to step 1, initial requirements. And as you can see, it says under open actions that you have 2 actions that have not yet been completed. They're what we call open. They're remaining for your attention. And the first one is contractual relationships, and then the second one is service outside residential. These are going to be the 2 examples I'm going to use of the second type of action, which is a multi-part action. In other words, we're going to have to ask you several questions in order to get you on the right track and make sure that you're doing the right thing. So let's begin with contractual relationships. Now, this is a super important one. It's very much like the dual agency in that, did you ask the buyer if the buyer is subject to a current written exclusive buyer rep agreement with somebody else? This one you can lose your license over, because if you are interfering with somebody else's contractual buyer rep agreement or a listing agreement, that's tortious interference with contractual relations, and that is a wow. You can get really smacked for that kind of thing. So this is super important. So the question is, did you ask the buyer? Okay, and you must always ask. You must always ask the seller. Same question. Now, when you ask them, then you have to tell Quigler the answer. So all this one says is, hey, what did they say? Are they contractually obligated or not? Now, if you say, if they say to you, no, we're not, we're free and clear, great. Hit no, you're done. This action goes up to your completed actions. Now, if you find out that they are contractually obligated with somebody else, you have to click yes. And when you do click yes, up's going to pop another action for you, which is, did you inform the buyer that you cannot represent them? And that's the key. You've got to tell them. And so you click yes. And again, if you click no, you're going to get that, which will force you into clicking yes. You cannot not tell them that you can't represent them. You must tell them that. So again, yes is the correct answer, no is the wrong answer, and if you answer incorrectly, you're going to get this. All right, so that one now just popped into our completed actions, and we still have one other one. And when you click on completed actions, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see the first one, and then you're going to see the multi-actions underneath it. Now, if you want to open those up to see the whole thing and what you've just accomplished, just click on the right. You'll find some little down tabs, and when you click on them, the whole thing will open up, and there you can read it all. David asked you if you're subject to. You told David that you are bound to somebody else, and therefore David informed you that because you're so bound, he can't represent you. And now it's done. Why is this so important? After all, you're going to be able to do this in 2 seconds. This is not taking a lot of time. But what happens here in Quigler is the consumer is getting this notification instantly. They're getting it on their dashboard that you actually did this. You actually complied. This is super important. If you click on what my client will see, you will see that they're seeing exact same wording that you're seeing, except it's appearing in their silo. We're telling them that David, their broker, asked you if you're subject to a current valid exclusive buyer representation agreement with somebody else. And if you click the next one, you'll see that. If you click the next one, you'll see it. All that is now creating a time-stamped and written record. Why is that important? Because if anybody came back and say, hey, you never did that, you never asked me, you can say, yes, I did, and there it is, right in their transaction record, time-stamped and dated, your proof that you did what you were supposed to do. Nobody's going to come back at you, and you're going to be able to now protect yourself. Okay, let's now go to the open actions, and let's do the second example. And this one you're going to really like because it's got an unusual ending and an unusual twist to the way I'm going to do it. So the question here, and another super important one which you can lose your license on really easily, and that is competence. It's asking you, are you offering or engaging in a real estate service outside of brokering residential real property? Such as, all right, now in New York State anyways, and in most states in the United States, your expertise is in residential 1 to 4 family. If you do a 5 family, that's commercial real estate in most states. So anything outside of 1 to 4 family is usually considered outside of residential real estate. And your license often will allow you to do that, but it's something that is not recommended. because you don't have competence. So you may have the legal right, but if you don't have the competence, you can lose that legal right. So in this case, if you are offering outside of residential real estate brokerage, I'm going to click yes. I'm going to do what I just said you should do. I'm going to say, yes, I'm going to offer a service outside of it. What then happens is you get another question. Do you have specific competence in this field? Now, maybe I do. Maybe I have gone out and done several leases for somebody, and maybe I've been able to do that, or maybe I once was a commercial broker. So in this case, the right answer would be yes, but I'm going to say, no, I don't. Now, what circumstance would you possibly have where you're going to go and do something for which you don't have competence? Well, I can tell you what's going to happen. You're going to have a brother-in-law or a sister-in-law or somebody's going to call you, and they know you, they trust you, and they say, hey, I want to go lease a barber shop or a beauty salon, and I want you to help me. And because you trust them, they trust you, you want the business, you're going to go outside of your specific competence and do something that you probably should not do. But that's the usual way that these happen, all right? So in this case, I'm going to answer no, I don't have the competence, because you've got to be honest. Now, when you ask that question, there's another question that comes up. Since you don't have any competence, are you going to get somebody else to help you who does have that competence? And the correct answer would be yes. Go to a commercial broker, say, hey, I'd like to split this with you. I've got to stay involved. That's what you should do. In my case here, I'm going to say, no, I am not bringing anybody into the transaction. That should surprise you. Then what happens is there's yet a final question. And basically the law says, okay, what you've got to do is disclose this fact to the buyer. So it says, have you disclosed to the buyer that you do not have this competence and have not engaged the assistance of someone who is competent to provide this service? And if you hit no, you're going to get the stop sign. And then, of course, you should answer yes, because the answer is yes. Now, this is a disclosure. It turns out, as it's a competence action, but it turns out to be actually a disclosure action. You actually can do something which you're not competent to do if you disclose it to the buyer or the seller, and they know it. And then they say, that's okay, let's proceed. So this is a very unusual one, and it shows you how we have these what we call triggers and contingent actions that we have to work through to get you to the right place. So click yes. That action falls into your completed actions in step 1. There they all are for you. And then you now get your first grade. Now remember, you're in test drive. This grade is totally private. Only you see it. And it's simply a means of allowing you to see how you're doing. And after you've taken several test drives, you're going to have a whole series of these A pluses because you've nailed it. And that's when you're ready to start inviting consumers in. That's when you're going to have the confidence level. That is when you're going to be able to blow through these really fast because you're going to know exactly what to do, and Quigler will have helped you get there. Now, finally, let's just go back to those completed actions. Let's open that file. There is both of them. Top one that we did first, the second one on the bottom that we just did. If you want to get rid of the top one, you simply go there to the upper right. There is a tab. Just click on that up tab and it'll go away. And then you left with the one we just did. If you want to open up the other actions to see exactly the whole thing, how it played out, click the down arrow and there they are. And you can start reading. David told you he's offering a service outside. David told you that he doesn't have specific competence in this, and that he's not getting anybody else to help him. And David disclosed all of this to you. And then when you click on what will my client see, you will see exactly the same words. That is what your client is going to see now in their silo. Okay, our next tutorial is going to just be a really short one to walk you through these 4 tabs so that you get to know what's behind each one of them.